José Manuel Entrecanales, Chairman and CEO of Acciona, which is a Spanish-based company. Just for people who haven't heard of Acciona or haven't heard of José Manuel, originally an investment banker with Merrill Lynch and therefore pretty immersed in the financial world, joined Acciona in 1991, became chairman in 2004. Acciona really, I think, started to sort of crystallize in 1997, but its roots as a company go back to the 1860s, so very deep-rooted. Also a family-owned and strongly influenced business. And I think family-owned businesses have become increasingly interesting in this space because at least the assumption is they think differently and they think longer term. So, José Manuel, just before we get into the complicated stuff, the story, I mean, every journey starts with a single step. What was Acciona's single step, or was there not one? Were there many?
Hello, John. I must say that a great deal of the inspiring philosophy and the strategy of Acciona is not mine. It comes from long before. It comes from the origins of the company. As you were saying, founded by a number of years back, the beginning of the 20th century, with the being in the infrastructure business, which we were and we still are. Building a train or building a hospital or building a road or all the civil works that we were doing had a very important social impact. So I guess that sensitivity to society and what a better life for our country and for the villages and for the towns where we worked was a key element of our thinking mechanics. Then evolving from that to the environmental side, that's a more recent thing, obviously, because back in the 60s, 70s or 20s, the environment wasn't an overwhelming variable, one that people would consider very, very, very much. But as of 1992, I started being very concerned and I must admit, also seeing that there was a great business opportunity, particularly on the energy side. So I started moving in the renewable energy world and inaugurated my first plant in 1995. It was a very rather rudimentary industry at that time. Since then, it's been a constant evolution to growth and to more focus on environmental and social impact and governance and sustainability and all these elements that are the driving forces of our business and the business community today.
Can you give us some sense, or give the audience some sense of the scale of the vital statistics of the business and the sort of sectors and geographies that you operate in?
We're a 8 billion euros sales company with a EBITDA of about 1.4 billion and with 10 gigawatts of renewable installed capacity. We're the only pure renewables utility in the world, declared by all ranks as the most sustainable energy company in the world. I think the speed at which the financial sector is embracing this, let's call it revolution, is astonishing to me. I mean, it's taken for people like most of our audience, and definitely you and I, who've been at it for now 20 whatever years. And we were kind of I was very frustrated by the degree of, by the lack of momentum that this whole process had up to last year. We've lost 20 years, so the momentum now needs to be hugely higher in order to recuperate that delay. But at least we started. So I'm very excited by the momentum. I'm very excited about how many of the public institutions and private institutions, the finance world, And the amount of demand we're having in this IPO that we're doing from ESG funds is astonishing. I mean, even more than energy funds. I mean, ESG funds are crawling over each other to come into this deal, because there aren't that many opportunities around the world which are clearly defined and clearly rated as pure ESG, very highly ranked ESG. So that should be an incentive for other companies to take those strategic objectives, because the flow of capital is enormous.
You combined the role of the chief financial officer with that of the chief sustainability officer. Why did you do that? And was there pushback within the company about that, or not?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, very much the contrary. I mean, I honestly think that it's so obvious that I'm surprised that we didn't think of it before. The sustainability objectives being at par with the financial objectives is something that we've always maintained as a principle. Now, putting the two objectives under the same head is a natural step. It's working beautifully. And you know, some of these ideas you take in a company and you implement and you pray that they work. This one I didn't pray that it worked because I knew it worked, but I didn't expect it to work so beautifully.
You yourself have been involved in the EU taxonomy on sustainable finance. Can you say a little bit about that and why you think it's so important?
Indeed. I mean, absolutely. I think the taxonomy, the European taxonomy, is possibly the milestone, the most important milestone in the past decade in homogenizing what it is to be socially and environmentally, particularly environmentally in the case of the taxonomy, positive. Or at least neutral. We contributed to developing the taxonomy mechanism and the standards, and then we were the first company to analyze all of our activities from that point of view. We came up with, I guess it was 93% of our EBITDA being taxonomy compliant, and 80-something% of our sales. Which, mind you, if you're a pure activity company with only one activity, it may be easy. Having, as we do, environmental activities, energy activities, which of course all qualify as taxonomy valid, but also infrastructures and mobility, and we do shared mobility, and we do water plants, and we do all sorts of things. The classifying or qualifying at those levels was not easy. Now it's a process. We need to improve ourselves. I mean, by no means we're perfect. I mean, no one, of course, that's clear. And we need to improve ourselves, and we need to go higher in the taxonomy. There are some decisions one has to take, and there are awkward moments. I mean, let me give you one, for example. Desalination is not taxonomy compliant. There is possibly in many parts of the world no option but desalination as a water supply alternative, the Middle East, for example. And then you have to scratch your head and say, do I do this, or what? Frankly, it's one's decision, but in our case, we've decided that we need to continue working in that sector, despite we're not being taxonomy compliant. But what the taxonomy gives you, which is the most important, is the sensitivity to know what you're doing and how, and give you the focus to try and solve it. And in that particular case, for example, the desalination activity, is what we're trying to do is to in the Saudi and the Dubai and the Qatar programs associated with renewable, so that it becomes neutral.
José Manuel, thank you immensely for making time for us today. Thank you very much.